will be fantastic.
That's funny. Google says you can broadcast for up to 8 hours. Hashtag sorry, John.
Hashtag thank you, John. Hi, Rose. I hope you had a good birthday.
Hi, everybody.
Do you know Jimny's journal is back? I haven't seen him forever.
I thought that was Belle's journal.
I don't know.
I'm just kidding.
We had a Belle.
The show. Hi, everyone. Sorry we're late. I'm actually feeling very accomplished personally because we have sound clips for you tonight. I've never done that before. And I kind of just cranked it out tonight, so you're welcome. No,
and then no word of a lie, he played them to test, and I like teared up. So it's going to be a great episode. I'm feeling very emotional.
Hi, everybody watching on YouTube, aka listening. This is the super duper rough cut of Once podcast. The full episode will be the edited episode. This is the full episode. The edited, polished version will be at oncepodcast.com/whatever.
343.
Thank you. /343. The number's not on the thing tonight.
No, I added it though to the bottom part. I just did some quick math. Thanks. I added 1 to 342.
All right. So, without much more ado, there'll probably be some, but without further or without much.
I'm pretty committed to this podcast today. Not really. I just hang on.
What's happening?
Oh, I have a loud water bottle today. I'll just leave the lid off.
My coffee
Normally
had
I
ice
have
today. I finished it early.
Your coffee had ice. Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll also talk about drinking coffee later in the day.
Okay. All right. We have music tonight, so. Oh, okay.
All right. Ready? Yes, I am.
Okay. I don't know if I'm ready. No, I'm ready.
Do you want me to ask you if you're ready?
I think Rumple's gonna say something to me.
Tick-tock, dearie! Tick-tock!
How's the volume on that for you?
It's actually okay today.
Okay, good.
Hopefully it doesn't a little bit. A lot of feedback in my microphone. My microphone. I don't even think that's... I don't know what language that is.
That was the us. That was the pre-show language. Okay. I shall play the music in 3, 2.
You're listening to Once, episode 343. Is this Henry Mills? Hello, and welcome back to Once, the unofficial podcast for ABC's TV show Once Upon a Time.
I'm Jeremy.
I'm Erin. And I'm really, really excited to talk about this series finale of this TV show today.
It's almost like it all wrapped up, isn't it?
Perfectly, with like a perfect little bow, and everything was perfect. It was a really great finale. It was a great wrap up to this storyline that we've been following for this entire season.
Indeed. I feel like we've said this before.
Yeah, I just want to forget that the last 30 seconds of this episode happened.
And for the most part, we shall.
Exactly. We're just gonna leave that at the end where it belongs, in the last 30 seconds of our podcast.
Yes.
I was just thinking, how would Daniel have opened this episode? And that's what I came up with.
Yep, I think so. And that's all we have to say about that. Would you like me to say the thing?
Sure.
Okay.
That's what I was waiting for. Sorry, we didn't get that far with our plan.
No, we were quite long enough in starting. Okay, so I will pick up from there. Eventually. Give me a moment. And speaking of Daniel, I'm sure our longtime listeners have been wondering where he is. He's actually left us a little bit of a message that he would like us to play for all of you. So we'll be getting to that later on in our episode.
And for now, we have a lot to talk about. I feel like I have a lot written down.
I do too. And I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where this goes. There's a lot.
And we got a ton of feedback, guys. I got feedback. Like I got our normal feedback from email. People were sending me stuff on Twitter. People were sending us emails about stuff they saw on Twitter. There is just like that hasn't happened for this entire season.
Yeah, this was by far the highest rated episode of the season so far on IMDb as well.
Oh, good.
With a 9.4 for people who look at such ratings.
What was it rated live?
I have no idea.
We stopped looking at those ratings in season 3, I think.
Yeah, I've probably said before that I think the ratings are kind of silly for many reasons, but not the least of which, how does that measure how good a particular episode was? All it measures is how good was the episode before it and how good was the marketing.
Right.
Because until people watch, if they didn't watch, they don't know how good it was.
Yeah, and even the marketing for this show has gone very downhill.
For comparison, if we're going by ratings, presumably of people who actually watched the episodes, on IMDb, Hyperion Heights, episode 1 of season 7, was only a 7.6. And then the next week was an 8.4, A Pirate's Life. Beauty was episode 4 of the season, and it got a 9.1, and that was the previous high water mark. There was a 9.0 for the 8th Witch, which ended which was the winter finale.
Yeah.
And then everything else really has been in the 8s, which is actually fairly respectable, all things considered. But this was a 9.4.
Sweet. And I think it deserved that rating. I really enjoyed this episode.
Written by David H. Goodman and nobody else.
Huh.
At least
I think he's written
according to what I've got.
I think he's written some good ones in the past.
Yeah, I was... Oops. Back up. That's next week.
Oh.
No, he did not write this one.
All right. You can just say that over again.
Yep. Yeah, this episode was written by Dana Horgan and Leah Fong, names that are fairly familiar to us, at least in the writing, the writer discussion portion of our show.
Yeah, I do recall them. They've been around for a little bit, correct?
Yes. Dana has written 31 episodes starting in season 4. Lots of episodes in season 5.
Okay. So I guess it's fair that they wrote this episode. To me, this would have been a good episode for Kitsis and Horowitz to write, since it broke their curse that they started.
True. Did they start it?
Well, I mean, it's their show.
It is their show. However, I was thinking for some reason that they didn't write the first episode of the season, but they did. They did also write the finale, which makes some sense.
Yes, but they also wrote, wasn't it last week that they wrote?
Yes.
Or the week before? It was one of the episodes we didn't like as much.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
it was definitely Flower Child that they wrote.
I'm just reading chat, and Jiminy's journal is pointing out that all the promo photos on the website for this episode were from a deleted scene, which I had already heard from someone that helps us out with show notes, but I wasn't sure if that was public knowledge or not, which I guess it is. So I can now share that. So yeah, we had to scramble to find other things to use for our show notes, because all of the promo photos were from a deleted scene.
Interesting.
Right?
Once this is all over, it'll probably be fun to go back and watch some of the commercials over the years, because of all Once Upon a Time material, that is probably the thing that other people remember, but I am not familiar with at all, because I don't go back and watch the commercials, but I definitely turn it off when the episode is over, and I don't watch them because I don't want to be spoiled.
So I remember the promo, the very first big break that we had was in season 2, between 2A and 2B. So between Queen of Hearts and the episode that came after Queen of Hearts. And ABC did this amazing, I feel like I still have the audio from it on like my iPod, because it was just such a beautiful, like, I think it was like a minute and a half kind of clip that they did. But all they did, it had no spoilers. They just put together a whole bunch of like the iconic moments so far. And it was beautiful. I'll get Jack to link it in the show notes if we can find it on YouTube.
Great.
I think it was to this song called Timeless by the Airborne Toxic Event, which is such a really beautiful song.
It sounds like a horrible time. Airborne Toxic Event. It sounds
with
like
beautiful music.
Something one of our villains might have tried to do. Okay, hang on. I'm going to cough at some point soon. Okay.
I'm trying to think of how to transition to like our notes.
Speaking of our villains.
Yeah, but are we going to start with Storybrooke?
I don't know. Yeah, we can. And speaking of our villains, you know where there don't seem to be any anymore?
In Storybrooke.
Yeah.
But they're still paying for the snow monster's destruction 8 years later.
To be fair, there was a lot of bad stuff that happened in that town.
That's true. They had to do a lot of fundraising.
Apparently, they have no money.
Or
Tourism's
magic.
Not great when people can't even come to the town. Yeah, they could just fix it with magic, couldn't they?
Yeah, like they have the clock tower 900 times, but that's neither here nor there.
That's why they can't rebuild the athletic center. They're always rebuilding the clock tower,
which doesn't even exist in real life.
I know.
I was really excited when we saw the mayor's house. And it was funny because it took me a minute to figure out that it was the mayor's house, that it was Regina's house. I was just like, and then it took me a minute to actually figure out where they were. It was like familiar, but I couldn't place it. And Jared Gilmore is all grown up.
His first day of school.
Aw. Do kids grow that much every year? I don't think they do. I think that was a little bit.
Some of them might.
Maybe.
I mean, I was almost my final height in 6th grade. So, probably not every kid. I was always the tallest for a long time. And then I was often the shortest. So there's that. So SBC is a thing. Storybrooke College.
Allegedly. Even Jared Gilmore had trouble getting SBC out that first time. I didn't think Storybrooke was big enough to have a college, but hey. Well, maybe they started it because all the cursed kids needed somewhere to go to school.
Oh, maybe that's a better theory because I'm kind of like, wow, that horrible dark curse really thought of everything. Like, okay, you can't just make Storybrooke idyllic now. It was meant to imprison people.
I mean, but it's true because there was an elementary school, so there was probably a high school, and there was probably a whole lot of college-age kids that came over in the curse, so
Yeah.
they would have needed
They were
something
just
too.
cursed to have low GPAs for as long as anyone can remember. And Storybrooke's sports teams don't win anything for as long as anyone can remember. In fact, who do they even play? They don't even get to play.
That's true. They just play each other.
Yeah.
Did we ever see Henry move back in with Regina?
No.
Because I did not know. I was a little confused because, I mean, I'm sure he does like 50-50, but it certainly seemed like he only lived there and was taking all of his life advice from Regina, and Emma's nowhere to be found, although they mentioned her. Yeah.
I guess, I mean, I can see it, and it's kind of nice for Regina's story to have a good uncursed time with Henry as his actual mother instead of I mean, I guess we figured out later that there was a part of her that was being a mother even during the curse, but she kind of was just a selfish person then / evil.
Right.
So this is nice, and it really does make sense because she's got more room possible. Well, I mean, Emma's got the house now, but Emma and Hook kind of have a new family thing going on, and so it's probably a better just day-to-day existence for Henry to just live with Regina, and they're all in the same town so they can see each other every day.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Hema Hook and Emma, they don't have, well, they're a new family because they are recently married, but they do not have like the kid that they're expecting is much later.
Oh, true.
But still, I think it might be awkward to have like a grown son.
Maybe
around.
The newlywed vibe is a little worse than even like being a young family with an older kid.
Probably.
I was like, why don't I just go live with my other mom for a little while?
We learned that Granny is also kind of a mechanic.
Right. What is that about?
It was so cute, though. Vintage curse era classic.
Right. Where were they working on the car? Was that behind Granny's or was that at Regina's house?
I thought it was in front of Regina's, but
I did too. I thought it was hilarious when Regina came out and she's like, would you go pick us up some grilled cheese sandwiches?
Yeah, I was like, she's just there helping your kid, not running a restaurant. But
I thought it was so weird, really. But
maybe
you do what you
is
can
around the corner.
Maybe they had to establish the grilled cheese thing,
of course. And
so
I liked
Ronnie could be a mom later.
I liked that they did this storyline. I think that it's very evident that a lot of kids go through this where they're trying to decide whether to stay at home and go to school or whether to travel. And then, because of the nature of the show, Henry has this added layer where he doesn't actually get to be himself in the real world.
Yeah. Well, okay. Now I objected to that wording a little bit.
Which part?
He said he was the only kid not whisked there from the enchanted forest. He's from the real world. Like, I thought the whole premise for 7 years has been that they're all real and that perhaps our world, as of last week, was just like all the others until bad things happened. And now you're back to saying real world and everybody else is from a storybook. I'm like, nah, this is still not consistent, but it's almost done.
They turned it around and he said they didn't accept the real Henry Mills. Yeah. Who is both.
That's true.
And really not both. Now he's both, but he was never both before.
I have questions about Henry's driving, which apparently hasn't improved much since we last saw him drive. He said, I may have hit a curb and dinged the passenger door.
That's a pretty high curb.
Yes, thank you. Were those separate incidents? Like, what did you do exactly?
My first time driving by myself, unsupervised, we have like a graduated license system. So for the first 8 months to a year, you have to be with a senior driver in your passenger seat with you. So much like everybody else in this province, I learned how to drive with a driving instructor. And then as soon as you pass your test, you can drive by yourself. And so I took my test on winter break, and my mom was like, if you pass your test, you can go take your friend out for breakfast in the van. But I learned how to drive in a Corolla, and then they gave me a van. And I didn't know things like turning radiuses were different in different cars. And I smashed my very first turn with the van. I smashed the the step that you would have on the side to get into like a high up vehicle.
Yeah.
I smashed that into a snowbank, obviously, because Canada in winter, and then dented it because I didn't know that you had to turn wider in a van than you do, because it was a really old van, not the kind that they have now.
That's fantastic.
So I can sympathize with Henry a little bit.
That's pretty funny.
So that's how you ding a curb and the door, because snowbanks. Although it was, I think it was June because he was graduating,
but it's Storybrooke, so.
I thought that all of the letters that he got, the acceptance letters, I thought they were all going to be rejection letters being like, you're not real. You don't go to a real school. Where's your records? You don't exist.
Oh.
And he couldn't go to school anywhere else.
I know so many of those things confuse me, like how they have cell phones and the internet.
Suddenly,
do they provide pretty good service in a place that they can't see? I don't know. Regina did adopt Henry, though, so maybe he does exist.
From Boston.
Yes.
So, okay, for the live listeners, so many of the themes kind of bleed together in this. Yes. So I'm just trying to I'm almost done this topic, even though there's a whole section that's in a different section.
Right. Because they literally talked. Our present day.
Right. So I was going to save that.
Yeah,
for that part.
Yes.
It's always so weird.
Are you done with that part?
No, I mean, this is going to be a comment about that. So we can start that's okay. It's always so weird when they have a flashback that doesn't have the full cast in it. I just expect more than just Henry and Regina. And I guess they had Granny, but it's just weird because they've done this a few times this season where it's they had a flashback that only had Hook and Emma. And then they have a flashback that only has Belle and Rumpelstiltskin.
Right.
But they're implying still that everybody's there, even though we know the cast isn't.
But you somehow feel that they aren't.
Yeah, because it's so quiet. Storybrooke's never been that quiet before.
Yeah, they're just happy.
And just still rebuilding years later.
Right. And even though these were our flashbacks, we could also say, meanwhile, in Hyperion Heights. Unless you're not ready to move on. So
there was just a feedback that I was trying to figure out how to put
in. I repeal my segue.
You should keep that, though. Keep that in your mind.
Okay, I'm going to put on a helmet and a reflective vest because that's what you have to put on when you take a Segway tour and the Segway doesn't belong to you.
That's my fault. I was just trying to figure out how to put it in. Jack, who writes our show notes, shared a tweet with us from Allie, who says, all caps, "Oh my gosh! Regina wore the exact same outfit that baby Henry burped in when she was trying to tell him a story now when he's all grown up." And then she showed, Jack will include it in the show notes, she showed a side-by-side photo of Regina with the baby Henry that we saw way back when, and then Ronnie in this current episode when she's trying to tell to get him to believe. I guess we could have done that after the segue. Sorry.
That's fine. Ooh, there's stuff. What is all this? I'm looking for that picture again.
Oh, Jack sent it.
Oh, that's right. It wasn't.
I think she.
Oh, it was a tweet, wasn't it?
It was a tweet, but she sent it in Slack.
Oh, I don't see it in Slack.
She might have just sent it to me.
Well,
Sorry.
That's a nice private little Once Upon a Time club you've got there.
I'm looking. No, she actually sent it to both of us.
Oh.
Maybe.
She did? I think it was just a tweet.
No, it might have just been in the once. Hashtag. Oh, it was. She sent it to me on Twitter. Sorry.
Yeah, you're right. Dang, Twitter's like, could not authenticate you. It's because when they stop supporting their official application, they stop abruptly.
She sent it to both of us on Twitter.
Freaking Twitter.com. This is excellent.
There was so much activity on Twitter this week.
Hashtag here. Thank you, John.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh, I was about to say, oh, look, we got more feedback on Twitter. It's you. Talking about Rumpelstiltskin. I just bit my tongue like I was about to spoil the podcast listeners on Once Upon a Time that we just watched. That's how anti-spoiler I am. I was like, oh, can I say Rumpelstiltskin? Oh, wait, yeah, they all watched it. Also, he's always in the show. But
did you find the tweet? I linked it in the chat.
No, I'm totally just looking at Twitter now.
We're doing great.
Well, I mean, they were all Once Upon a Time tweets that seemed relevant that I hadn't seen, but that's super funny.
Someone sent me a great one. Oh no, I'll share this later. Okay.
The wording on that tweet is okay. I'm getting tired, apparently.
Okay, I'm gonna, while we're laughing, copy this feedback.
I'm all right.
To where it belongs. It belongs somewhere else.
That's what I wanted to confirm. That's actually the whole reason I was looking at that. It's not Ronnie.
Oh.
It's Regina Past and Regina Storybrooke.
Oh, okay. Then can I just re-say that whole thing?
Mm-hmm. That's why I found it important to see the picture right now, because I was like, I think I remember that differently.
Okay, so it's from this episode. Oh yeah, it was right after the fundraiser. Okay. Jack.
Face. Sorry. Okay. Her face looking at the baby.
Now, where did that go? Oh, here. Jack, who writes our show notes, sent us a tweet from Allie on Twitter who says, "Oh my gosh, Regina wore the exact same outfit that baby Henry burped in when she was trying to tell him a story now that he's all grown up."
By which she actually means that Regina was wearing the same outfit that she was wearing and on which Henry burped. Not that Henry burped in an outfit and now Regina's wearing it.
That's how I read the tweet, the proper way. But that's a really good Easter egg. So thank you, Jack, for bringing that to our attention. Jack will put a copy of that tweet in the show notes so you all can see it.
Great. I wonder if that was continuity or they were just like, hey, we have this Regina wardrobe. She looks good in this. She shall wear it now.
Maybe.
Clothes hold up really well. That's like an 18-year. And yeah, and apparently fashions don't change much in Storybrooke either.
Nope. I was going to say, fashion hasn't changed much anyway in Hyperion Heights because they're still in the same time zone. Not time zone, timeline. Okay, we're not going to use that as a segue.
Okay, should I go to the other thing that I said?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I forget what it was.
Oh my gosh. Slap happy podcasting.
And our notes aren't in the right order, assuming you're segueing where you think you are.
Oh, I don't know where I'm. Both of them. I mean, it applies to either one. So
true. Okay. True.
Okay. Excuse me. I cannot get enough water tonight. Okay. Quiet on the set. I seriously am getting a blank.
Like you forget what you did to segue?
Yeah.
I can really re-say my segue if you want.
No, that's okay. No. Just all right. I just need 5 seconds probably. It's like Lost. Oh, gee. So, of course, the interesting thing about these flashbacks is that actually we could say, meanwhile, in Hyperion Heights.
Yeah, they're kind of flash sideways.
Exactly my thoughts.
Hyperion Heights was a little creepy at the beginning.
Yeah, there was a pretty nasty storm. And while it may rain quite a bit in Seattle, it doesn't, to my knowledge, usually come with thunder and lightning.
Or apocalyptic winds. Yes. What did Lucy say?
Definitely apocalyptic.
I love how in the scene, I was going to call it the opening scene. Was it the opening scene when Gothel poofed? I think it was.
Yes, or flashed. Nope. Nope.
Okay, there's a good outtake for you, John. I love how in the...
I ruined everything. I'm sorry.
I love how in the opening scene, Lucy's like cowering behind Regina at first. And then Gothel mentions Henry.
Oh, good
And
catch.
Lucy's like, what did you do to him? Like, and she's like, let me at her. That was cute. I will tell you the specific moment where I stopped disliking Lucy in this episode. That wasn't it, but that did gain her a lot of bonus points.
Only took 20 episodes.
Exactly. 21. She was in the finale.
Yes, exactly.
And I think they just did what they had to do to get rid of Gothel so that they could move on with the story. Mm-hmm.
What?
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 Did something happen?
I thought you were going to talk about Lucy.
Oh, I did. Oh no, I said I'll share that later.
Oh, I missed that part.
Sorry.
I was like, whoa, now we're talking about Gothel. Okay. Okay. Yes, I agree. And so there's the stuff that happened. There's the stuff that we noticed. we also got some really good feedback. I would say we had some feedback that probably tore that storyline up better than I could. And we'll be getting to all of that.
The Gothel storyline, you mean?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Gothel showed up right in the beginning. If you remember, we referred to her as the bat in the belfry or Belfry's bat or something like that. Crazy old lady. I don't know. She was pretty creepy to begin with.
She was.
So she's been there from the beginning, but her motives and the things that she's appeared to be after have varied widely.
True. And now suddenly she's just trying to wipe out humanity.
Yeah, is that all?
Yeah, just, nothing major. We didn't mention this last week, but I think now the whole idea, I've been very upset throughout this season that she seems to have magic and nobody else does, but it's a land without magic and yada yada.
Right.
That actually makes sense now that we know her backstory, why she has magic on Earth, because she was always meant to.
She's from this world just before it was a land without magic.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so it's funny because all at the same time, there are pieces that feel very consistent, as if they did plan the whole story arc from the beginning. And then there are pieces that feel very inconsistent. And it's almost more like they knew how it would end and they started well, but it's almost like maybe somewhere along the line, some of the people who wrote some of the episodes, they kind of just got a little off course.
Yes. And not to jump topics too much, but you literally said this was going to happen with the writers. When the writers switched, we were talking about Rumpelstiltskin and Regina. And you were like, well, yeah, maybe next week the writers are going to be like, nope, I don't like that. And then write him totally different. And that's exactly what they did.
Yep. They call it out as much as they can. They at least mentioned, hey, just last week you did this. And he's like, well, now I know that was wrong. So, yeah. Which I see the aberration as being Rumpel doing such a selfish thing after all of his growth and development.
Yes.
And I don't know how that got approved, but it shouldn't probably have been in the plot. There was actually no purpose for it.
Just, very minimal character context very minimal character conflict and annoying your podcasters.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm thinking that in that episode, they could have, they're making this up, literally just making it up as they go in some cases. They're playing with magic as though it's just a substance that can be collected from storms like rainwater or pulled from this person and put into that person. And they just push and pull magic all over the place. They could have easily, to illustrate character development and relationship change in that episode, had Rumpel go and ask Regina. And Regina could have shared just enough, because clearly they don't have any idea what amount of what does what. She could have shared just enough for him to find the dagger. But I guess they wanted to highlight that she was working on something, but then she didn't get to save Henry at that time, and that's why. I don't know. I'm not sure what all the reasoning is.
Yeah.
And as many plot points as were resolved in this episode, I think we have almost as many questions as to why that thing even happened in the beginning.
I do definitely feel like they're trying now. I think at one point they didn't know the future of the show and they needed to leave doors open.
Yeah, like Facilier feels like a seed for what if they renew us.
Exactly. And we got some feedback to that extent, basically questioning like what was the point with Facilier at all. And even even within this episode, what was the point of him taking Jacinda and Tiana? Sabine, Drew, whatever, we are both. What was the point of that if only for what happened at the end? But I think, they had to make him evil somehow, and like, I don't really know. I do think that him being introduced was to keep the doors open for next year.
Yeah. So it seems like they did kind of what we thought they might. As of last week, it felt like, no, they're not going to be able to wrap it up next week and have 2 episodes for the finale. But despite saying that the finale is 1 episode, it definitely feels like they wrapped up every loose end they could.
Yes.
Or at least set everything into a pretty straight path to the end. They only have 1 conflict that I can think of left. And we won't talk about that right now because we're shutting that out, but it's halfway new in the last few seconds of the show.
Yeah, and I was really annoyed that they did that, even though you were right. That was one of my "Why is Jeremy always right?" tweets. So 1 pertained to the time travel.
Yes.
And 1 pertained to the finale having absolutely nothing to do with the storyline that we've been following for this entire, I was going to say series, but season. The spin-off series, but this season.
Now, to be fair, I don't know that the time travel idea was mine originally. I wish I could remember who. Someone pointed out that they were in our same time frame still, just like Storybrooke had been.
Oh, I did, I think.
Did
I
you?
was just like, all their pop culture references are current. They haven't aged. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if somebody else did too.
But yeah, so what's funny is it almost seems possible that they actually kind of heard that theory and thought it sounded like a good idea and still had time to write it in. But like I said before, Regina was so emphatic about not being able to go to Storybrooke and no one in Storybrooke being able to know that they're there, that I think they planned it from at least whatever point she said that.
I agree. I think that it all makes sense. I don't know that I like it, but it makes sense.
Which I believe DeAndre, amid some other feedback, pointed out was in episode 8 of season 7, Pretty in Blue, which was actually written by the same 2 authors who wrote tonight's episode.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe they were like, you 2 are in charge of this time travel stuff.
Right. It's like they can at least stay consistent within their own
their own idea.
Oh, funny. In the chat, we have a message saying that Adam let the time travel thing slip on Twitter back in November. I don't remember ever hearing about that.
Neither do I. And I think I follow him on Twitter.
Right.
Because if he spoils so cryptically that it doesn't usually make any sense.
Right.
I really enjoyed Nook being like, you need to tell me what's going on. And then Gold's whole speech about how he's not mad and he needs to take a leap of faith and magic is real.
I just spent the night tied up in the bowels of the city and I saw things. All right, so either I'm going crazy or Eloise Gardner drugged me or...
Magic is real. Magic is real. All of it. Everything you read in Henry Mill's book, we are all from another realm. Eloise is a witch.
I loved Nook's. I saw things.
And then I loved when they got Margot and he kept saying, like, whatever you see, you're not mad. Whatever you see, you're not mad. Like he's still trying to convince himself. Oh, it jumps around so much.
The show?
The themes, they're also...
I know. I'm having a hard time sticking with notes.
So,
okay.
Margot goes and has no more luck than Hook at convincing Alice. Maybe less, yes, because she got them all shrunk.
Yes.
But this is a scene that you just don't burst my bubble. This was in this episode just for me, okay?
Oh, okay.
When Ronnie attacks Gothel with a baseball bat and then has a stake like a vampire in Buffy, and she holds it up like, let's go. That was the best. And I do believe that somebody before even the end of the episode, before I had even watched it, was like, Aaron, this one was for you, and sent a clip on Twitter. And I couldn't even see what was happening. It was so dark and I hadn't watched it yet. So
that's so awesome.
It was so great.
Like, you want Charmed? Here you go.
Buffy.
Not Charmed. Buffy. One of the two.
I do have a Charmed rant for later as well.
What episode would be complete?
Exactly.
So, speaking of all of them being shrunken down, I have a little bit of a side theory, like a motive theory for this episode. Some of the things that happened, specifically that, and several characters being locked in a closet by Facilier. I'm feeling as if they set up a few things so that we would seriously doubt that the curse would be broken anytime soon.
Like separating all of the people that could potentially have true love's kiss?
Or even, so you see 3 people get shrunken down and you feel like that's just going to be a whole thing. But not really.
Right.
So then the curse breaks and somehow that unshrinks them. I don't actually know why. And then, unless Alice was sort of somehow holding them in that state, and of course she just stopped the second she was uncursed. And then the others go, wait a minute, we can fight even though he's got like voodoo, and they just burst out of the closet and that situation is over. So, but I'm wondering if they were just trying to throw us off the scent of a breaking curse, even though it was basically break the curse or die.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that I thought, although I'm very happy with how they wrapped up Gothel so efficiently after this, I think that I was thinking that that could have been another episode. Like, okay, they stopped her, or sorry, they broke the curse, but then there's still Gothel and there's still this spell that she's done, and like that could have been the finale.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and maybe there's no great way to do it. As nice as it was, I thought it was maybe a little anticlimactic considering everything she had set in motion.
Her being defeated, Gothel?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was interesting because, Ronnie was literally about to die, I think. And then it was a complete turnaround because as soon as Alice and Weaver and Robin and kind of Nook in the background, because he couldn't get too close, showed up, like Regina even had a smile of relief when she said gold when he showed up, and like she knew that he was going to help.
Yeah.
Even though, like, because, I guess she did have her magic back, but she knew it wasn't enough.
Right. Clearly, it wasn't. we got another Regina fireball, maybe the last ever. And,
no, I don't accept that.
No. Okay. Well, maybe she'll throw some fireballs next week. I don't know. But it didn't work very well. Backing up a little bit, Gothel, like her whole thing. So last week, and this is where it gets, and always has been, I'm starting as a sidebar, I'm starting to feel the winding down of my brain. No, okay. I'm starting to feel the winding down of the whole process of this show, and it's kind of bittersweet because I start to kind of say, what about this? What about that? And then I realize we've just got like like 2 episodes left. What does any of it even matter? But I mean, for journalistic integrity or something akin to that, it's the contrast between last week's episode and this one is stark in yet another way when we go from Gothel collecting carefully all of these witches and saying that they're like her, and if she'd known that Alice was like them, things would have been very different. Next thing you know, she sets this whole thing in motion and they start turning into trees.
Well, to have a place in the eternal grove.
Yeah, but didn't you? She called them sisters forever, her family. She was replacing, I thought it was very clear that she was replacing the family that she lost. They were all supposed to be in the grove, not be the grove. So I don't know where that came from. And it seemed like she was going to do the same thing to her own daughter.
Yeah, see, I wasn't worried Tilly would turn into a tree because I just figured her magic would, and her half nymph status would excuse her from that.
Yeah, I don't know. They seemed pretty worried. And of course, as the tension ratcheted up, suddenly the timetable, maybe that first witch that that Nook saw turn, maybe she just really didn't have much to give in the first place. So when she had given everything, which was hours and hours and hours before the rest of them, she turned. Even if as long as I'm being super nitpicky on execution, the first one, her cloak dropped on the ground and the deputy picked it up. True. And revealed the sapling. The rest of them, the cloak disappeared too, which I found very convenient.
I think, to go back to what you were commenting on, just like the writing in general, it made me think about, like, say you work for this great company and you find out that they're closing and you have to find a new job. And you've got your like 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever notice, but you're still looking for a new job. I feel like you're going to be distracted in your efforts and you're going to just be like, we just need to get this job done before we move on to our new job. And I think that that's unfortunate because I look back on all the shows that I've loved that have ended with these terrible endings that could have been so much better. But I do feel like it's probably a big bummer when your show gets canceled and you need to find other work, or you just need to do your best to salvage what you have left.
Yeah, I agree. I guess to me, that's where I would hope that more. How do I want to say this? That's where I guess I would hope that more people who are creating an ongoing story and not doing an episodic show, which is very rare anyway these days, unless you're a sitcom. I would hope that there are certain core story principles that these stand no matter what we have to do to achieve them, because this is our consistency. For me, one of those in the beginning would have been this stupid coven is Gothel's sisters. She's not going to hurt them. She's going to put them before anyone and everyone else. So even though they had faces last week, I mean, I assume that, what was her name?
Seraphina.
I assume Seraphina was one of the ones that was there and turned into a tree.
Oh, yeah.
But there was absolutely no drama around that. There was no mention of it. There was no, she's built up as special 1 week. And I think maybe the point was kind of even maybe at the end of last week that Gothel was actually, turns out, using them more than it seemed. It's hard. I could go either way, really, because as I'm talking about it, I was asking what made them different. If they were humans who had magic, why was that better? So maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
Maybe they weren't really her sisters. Maybe they weren't really special. And she just sort of needed their power to do what she was doing. It's just that if that was the truth, I don't know if it was clear. Because I certainly felt that she was just trying to build a new family in a horrible, evil way.
I don't know that I even thought about it that much, to be honest. But what you're saying makes sense. Like, she just kind of betrayed them too.
Yes.
Unless they knew that that's what they were doing, and maybe like their spirits would become the nymphs, and so they would really be alive. Like, there wasn't a whole lot established about how nymphs are born or created or
even what was going to happen to humanity.
Well, some of them would be spared, though, so she wouldn't really be wiping out humanity unless she was lying, which, I mean,
yes, a lying witch.
She is a monster. Lying witch.
Well, yeah, so the storm starts rumbling, and Regina says, "Oh, you're going to wipe out humanity with a rainstorm?" And she says, "Oh, it'll be so much worse." But
right.
I mean, at least she didn't use any once upon a time superlatives. It'll be the worst storm Earth has ever seen, or who knows. So maybe she was going to turn all of Earth into a forest planet, and the trees were going to eat people. I don't think I quite understand what she was going to do.
Maybe all the humans were going to turn into the forest.
Maybe. But that park was already looking pretty cool, and now it's got some really big trees that have their roots in a cave underground, which is super stable, I'm sure. And those trees actually don't look all that out of place if you've ever been to Seattle. So there you go. I think that park can just be beautiful from now on, except for that one ugly tree in the middle that they should probably remove.
But they can't kill it because, it's nature and nothing's ever dead.
Yeah, she'll never truly be dead, but
she's just eternal.
She can be in lots of different little pieces.
I loved. I called a whole bunch of things Emma 2.0 in this episode, but as most of you know, and I'll probably share if we do a bonus episode, my favorite scene of this entire series, for whatever reason, is the smackdown between Emma and Cora in Queen of Hearts, where Cora says, "Oh, you foolish girl, love is weakness," and then tries to take Emma's heart, and then it doesn't come out, and Emma does the Care Bear and Emma does the Care Bear stare. No, it's strength, Tilly's speech was so Emma 2.0.
Yeah.
Love is strength.
Don't be a fool. Join your mother and defend your home. You are not my mother. You want to ruin me the way the world ruined you. I'm not like you. I'm not an outcast. I'm not an orphan or a street rat or some crazy girl who's lost her way. You chose hate. But I choose love.
I love it. So good. The sound is so terrible on my TV that I had to watch that so many times to figure out what the words were.
Well, yeah, and that's I don't even know what kind of note that is. I have a lot of trouble with ABC shows hearing
with the sound,
the words. Not, other things on Netflix, other stations. Maybe if I watch anything on other stations, it's mostly Netflix at this point. But yeah, ABC shows have a unique difficulty for me in hearing the dialogue. I don't know if they're only designed for a 5.1 system that I don't have. Like, all the voice belongs in a center channel that doesn't exist on my system. I don't know. But they're uniquely difficult to hear the words over the soundtrack somehow.
Yeah, well, and even the scene that I referenced from Queen of Hearts, I remember that was the mid-season finale that year, and the audio was so terrible in that scene. And then they did one of those specials before the show came back, and they had fixed the audio.
Oh, interesting.
And I swore it up, and I was like, I told everyone in chat, and they were like, it's the same. And I'm like, it's not the same. It's better. You can hear her.
That's funny. Sometimes I have trouble on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as well.
Yeah, okay, so it's not just me. I kept like pausing and then skipping back, and I couldn't even figure out what the word outcast was. And I get that she has an accent, but I heard it just fine just now.
Right.
Well, now I also know what it means or what it says. So,
and it's funny because she says, I choose love. And then she turns her mother into a twisted old tree. But I liked that she followed up with this.
I'm sorry your life twisted into something you never meant it to. Promise I will do better. For everyone.
The soundtrack was so good. And she's so good.
It was so good. I loved that scene. She's probably my favorite new character of this entire spinoff.
Yes, easily. Well, yes.
We also got
a close second.
We also got feedback. I can't remember who from, but just talking about how they really liked that it wasn't a huge deal. Like they didn't make it into this big battle that Tilly had to kill her mother.
Right.
Which they've done so many times before with the heroes when they've had to take those extreme measures. You know, they didn't do that. It was just like, okay, light versus dark, light won, the end. Let's go for pizza.
Yeah. And maybe they're playing into the concept of she's not truly dead because she's a tree. And the funny thing is, what I was thinking, I started thinking about the Merlin season. I was thinking we've seen people come back from being trees. So if there were more seasons ahead, I would actually maybe be slightly worried about that. But I think it's safe to say she'll remain a tree.
Yes.
Or we won't be there to see it if Seattle is ever plagued by Mother Gothel in the future.
Maybe in the world of fan fiction, she will wake up. But that is for you to write about, fans.
Yes. In that whole sequence, are we supposed to believe that the poison in Hook's heart is just gonna wear off?
I don't think so. I think
he said, you made me stronger, and then he's actually able to hold her hand and stand there.
No, I think he was just saying that. That wasn't my interpretation of what he was saying. Because then he was on the stretcher.
Oh, okay.
So I think he was just saying that to be like, no, my heart hurts, but you're making me stronger because you're my daughter and I love you and you can do this. And I'm going to just stand here in pain and hold your hand because I know that that's what you need right now to save the world.
Yeah, but what about the blast of magic that usually forcibly separates them?
Well, this is, it's only just coming back a little bit.
I see. Okay, cool.
You just want all the answers, Jeremy.
I do. I mean, I know it's almost done, but we've been watching for a long time, and sometimes I still have questions.
Your questions are pointless.
Do you know why you have questions? Because adults lose their belief. You just need to believe.
Lucy, I wish you never grew up.
Okay, so to move on
let's follow that to its logical conclusion, Lucy.
I didn't even think of that. That temper tantrum of I just said of Jeremy's. Okay, that temper tantrum of Lucy's was my favorite Lucy moment ever. She did
really?
Such a good job, and now I think I like her as a character.
That's hilarious.
I wish you never grew up. Slams the door. That was so good. Come on.
My favorite Lucy moment tonight was he also deals in tarot cards. And they look at her and she's like, I've seen him around Ronnie's.
Yeah, that was good.
Should we break that down a little bit? It's kind of like, I've seen him when I'm hanging around at the neighborhood bar, okay?
And I was like, how weird must it be for Lucy now that Henry is awake, but she's still not awake? And he remembers and he's like all excited and hugging her and like talking to her like she knows what he's talking about. And he's like, I'll explain it later. I'm going to go help my mom.
Right.
I enjoyed, what was it? Operation Hyacinth? This was like Operation Hyacinth in full swing of trying to break the curse. Like Lucy and Regina were, getting everything out that they could.
We had so many weird moments in this episode. It's hard to believe it was just a regular length episode.
Yes, that's true.
So there was the whole take back scene with Regina still being appropriately mad at Rumple, but Rumple totally reversing course. I'm sorry, I don't remember ordering a traitor with a side of betrayal.
Well, Lucy told me about Gothel's visit. Apparently, him and Lucy are tight now, too.
Yeah, right. So then he just says he distilled a small amount of memory potion from Nick's blood. And I'm going, and you don't have magic. What you did what and how and when? And then it doesn't even work. And I'm like, what was the point of that? But I'm thinking that just like in the beginning, Regina needed her mind opened a little bit.
Yes, she did.
And then she had the memory potion and she had to be close enough to be pushed over the edge. I think maybe the call Henry made to himself would not have done anything if he hadn't had the memory potion in him.
Maybe.
I'm going with that. I'm giving them that one.
I think too, like he claims to want to believe, but he doesn't. And so even Emma did not, this is my second Emma 2.0. Emma did not want to believe. She literally looked at August's wooden leg and saw a normal human leg.
Oh, true.
And then he says, we don't have to have the sound clip for this because it's from season 1, but he's all like, you don't want to believe. And then Regina's, don't you want to believe? Like there were so many parallels in that scene of Regina and Henry, like of her trying to convince him and him just being so closed off to the idea because of all this pain that he's in.
Very true. It'd probably be fun to do a season 1 rewatch and then a season 7 rewatch.
Yeah, they had a lot of throwbacks.
Maybe at some point in the future, we or one of our wonderful listeners will create a highlights list. Like watch these episodes. These are the ones you want to rewatch that won't make you tear your hair out. They'll just make you cry and wish the show was still on.
Or your heart. They won't make you tear your heart out either.
And hide it.
Or anybody else's.
Remember, there was a real problem with heart ripping on this show for a while.
There was.
It was like nobody's hearts were ever where they were supposed to be.
There was just devastating moments of heart ripping. Aww.
And even just odd moments of heart ripping where you're like, would you just put that back? Like, what do you even...
Yeah.
Stop it. We got a good heart rip this season.
No, we got a heart rip.
Yeah. Are you saying it wasn't good?
It was awkward. It was Alice.
No, you're right. I have to say, after seeing this episode, someday I want to text someone, meet me at the cemetery. How great is it to get a text from a woman that you believe to be your grandma, but nobody else believes to be your grandma, saying, meet me at the cemetery. And then the cemetery, right? Okay, first of all, it is in Hyperion Heights.
Yes.
So the Mills graves are there, and so is Victoria Belfry's grave, which, by the way,
because she fakely made their grave. No.
True. It's just, Henry stopped and found it, and we were like, well, don't you think it's odd that your family's buried in Hyperion Heights and you have no connection to the place?
Yeah. Even that scene about Lucy being like, "Are we gonna dig her up?"
I loved that. Mainly Regina's reaction. She kind of, there's the hesitation. She's like, no.
No, you're gonna just go home, little girl.
But then she's like, no, we're not gonna dig up Henry's family. I am gonna dig up Victoria's grave, though.
I love though, like same with Rumpel harvesting the memory potion, Regina somehow digging up the book from her cold dead hands. Like we didn't have to see that. And it's interesting because
Right.
they had no magic to do that with. So we know they did it like in the old fashioned way. So did Regina Legitskis just dig up Belfry's grave? She wasn't very dirty when she got back.
Well, magic. Wait, no, not
No.
magic. It's a good question. Why would the book even be in there? Like, was it like in Victoria's will? Like, go to my safe and get this book and bury it with me because reasons. Or it was already there. She had a grave picked out and she's like, well, I'm going to put this book here, but somebody bury me here if I happen to die during this curse.
Yeah, or Drizella knew about it and put it there.
Right, because really Victoria didn't actually cast the curse. And so, okay, so Henry touching the book didn't do anything, but maybe they should have opened it and been like, hey, look at that illustration.
Yes.
Sure looks like you and Jacinda, doesn't it?
That was kind of like a heartbreaking scene.
It was, though. Yeah.
And I really like this actor, and I actually think that Jared Gilmore played off him a bit. A couple of the things that Jared said, he said very much like this new Henry would say.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah. Which is cute because like he's obviously, he's playing a character. He's trying to play older now.
Right.
And
he's finally getting to act his age. And he never got to make older Henry. He had to keep pretending he was years younger than he was.
Yeah.
And then Andrew West took over. But yeah, I felt like they did a couple things to sync up their mannerisms.
Yeah. But I loved, I don't know. You all know Emma's my favorite character. But when he was like, where's Snow and Charming? Where's Emma? Like when he said, where's Emma? His voice actually caught. Like he was just so upset that there was no, like, his other mom wasn't there. Like the savior wasn't there. I don't know. That was such a good scene.
Yeah. And then she grabbed his face and I totally thought she was going to kiss him on the forehead and break the curse.
Yeah, so did I.
And then later, he was holding Lucy similarly. And I thought he was going to kiss her forehead and break the curse. Like when he woke up. And neither of those things happened, but we still got a good character honoring curse breaking.
Yeah, and I like that we hypothesized that it was going to be, or I hypothesized at least that it was going to be Regina and Henry, and it was, but not in the way that that I said.
But it felt like
I liked that I liked that he was the one to break the curse. Like it makes more sense that he's the savior, if you will. It's his story. Like this whole season has kind of been like, this is Henry's story.
That's true.
And he's not just a failed author and 5-star Swift driver.
The one thing I found interesting from a consistency standpoint too is we noticed, especially early on, that it seemed like, unlike the older curses, they still had their memories. They were just twisted. And so it seems to turn out that his pain runs so deep because he couldn't save his family. But that's a real thing, just not that he had a wife and child who died. It was more that he couldn't save them all from what happened.
Yeah. Because he's the one who got kidnapped and got poisoned, and that basically blackmailed Regina into casting the curse in the first place and not being able to break it. Yeah, it was I really liked that. I liked the writing. It was emotional, poked all the right heartstrings. And it allowed them to explain why they couldn't get help from those heroes he was wondering about.
Right. They actually did time travel.
They
At what point did Regina figure that out is my question.
Probably when she looked at the year.
True.
When she was awake.
I guess they do have the benefit of actual calendars.
They haven't shown one, but
right.
We got like, I guess obviously, because this was a major part of the episode, we got a lot of feedback about the time travel aspect. And one of the things, we got two really good pieces of feedback from AJ. One is, this is completely unrelated, but anyone else curious as to why Henry and Lucy didn't have curse names in Hyperion Heights?
Yeah, I just thought of that. At least in terms of Henry, I wondered why his name was normal. The only thing I can come up with is that the only scene they knew originally they absolutely wanted was Lucy knocking on Henry's door and saying, "Is this Henry Mills?" Just like Henry did to Emma. And so they wrote that and filmed it. I still don't know how much about Hyperion Heights they knew when they filmed the finale of season 6.
Who had the magical item to stay with your child? That was Jacinda, right? Or Cinderella? Not Henry. It wasn't Henry who had it for Lucy, because otherwise they would have. Okay.
So that could be a reason that Lucy kept her name, but that's a really loose reason because Jacinda didn't keep her name, and her name had nothing to do with knowing Lucy was her daughter.
Yeah, that's true. They were just together still. Kind of.
Nook had it so that he wouldn't lose Alice, but with Lucy being so much younger and more defenseless, he gave it to Ella.
Right.
Right at the last minute.
Yeah, so that doesn't make sense, but that's okay. I can let that one slide.
Yeah.
We also got a tweet shared. Like, AJ sent us a tweet from Casper that says, "But wait, so what about Ivy and Anastasia? Did they just went back home to meet their past versions?" So I'm assuming portals have developed a time travel aspect.
I had a little bit of a I was having a rage moment in my brain when I read that. Because it's just so true. If they just had no idea what time they were in relative to anything and they used a portal to go home, where did that put them? I assume that people aren't used to thinking. They've never given an indication that you can just time travel. I mean, we saw how hard they needed a newborn baby for time travel at one point. You'll remember. So please don't tell me they can just throw a stupid beam and they can go through time and space.
Maybe they did return back to the past and we just don't get to see that they're now like messing up the past or something. Yeah, it does pose some problems. Like, we got feedback even from Gareth that's wondering, like, what's gonna happen to Zelina now that they're in the past, but she's in love with this guy from the past. Is she just gonna stay in the past in our world?
The past is in the past. Maybe we should let it go. No, but
that was so good. It's been such a long time since we've had Frozen references.
I know. Suddenly I could hear the singing in my head. But yeah, because it's not like, so the happily ever afters are nice, but it's really sad if at some point they're never going to be able to see the rest of their family again. So does that mean that Regina really, really meant what she said to Gothel? She said, "You may have brought us here, but this is my home now."
I hope that's not what she meant.
Yeah. like specifically that place and that year.
What, we're just gonna like live with two versions of all of these characters for the rest of time?
Well, plus she can never see everybody else again.
Yeah.
And
That's no
really,
good.
either Henry goes back to where he belongs, or he never gets to see Emma again.
Yeah. Or
So
his
it doesn't make
brother or
sense.
sister,
I have a
cousin,
sense.
uncle.
Right.
Sorry, I forgot who Neil was.
Ooh, wait, what? Yeah.
Baby Neil is actually Henry's uncle, right? Great uncle.
Yeah. Yeah,
He's actually
that's
wait, Emma's brother. No, his just normal uncle.
yeah.
What
That's
did you
super
suggest for
awkward.
the new timeline format?
Oh, a ball of twine.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm thinking just a
That
tangled ball of twine. That's
that'd
the
be
new timeline.
great for the family tree as well. The Wentz family tree.
Thankfully, they don't seem to have gotten into string theory.
Which is what?
Well, time traveling could have created a separate timeline. So
Mhm.
one timeline goes on without any changes. They could have almost done that before. They seem to actually say, yeah, you can go back and you can affect the timeline. Technically, Henry's call kind of affected the timeline, but maybe not in a major way. And
Because
since
it
he
seems to be
remembered
like it's on a loop.
it's kind of a lost style, whatever happened, happened. Kind of like this is just what time is. At this point in time, this person did this and it affected this time, and that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Which is a
Well,
much easier way to think about time travel in a story like this.
I'm trying to remember. I think I've brought this up before when we last dealt with time travel, but I certainly was going to bring it up tonight given this new information and just because this is also the series, like we're heading into the series finale.
Right.
But on the series finale of Charmed, they did, and it wouldn't be complete without a Charmed reference from me. They did a time travel thing where they were like current versions of themselves and past versions and future versions. So it was like in the present day, they like accidentally killed somebody. So then the future versions came back and said, "You just killed my mom." And so then they had to go back to the past to fix the mistake. And then they went too far back. So then they grabbed like their mom, who was actually dead in the past, to come help them in the present. It was this whole big thing.
Yikes.
But what ended up happening was when the timeline like all kind of rectified and made sense again, the past and current versions just it was like this weird effect and they just joined each other's bodies and they were one person again.
Yikes.
But
That's
with all the
really
knowledge. Weird. It is weird and I can't like they didn't do it enough in the series to have any rules about it. It was only in the series finale. It made it really special though because they had traveled to the past before and they had had future people travel to the past to help them. But the whole theory with Henry is like the gift from Tiny, he only knows it's there because even in the past, his future self called him and told him it was there.
Right.
Like he didn't know about it from any other way. Like his future self didn't know about it
Right.
from a different circumstance.
Told about it.
Yeah, like it's like a continuous loop.
Yeah, unless at one time when the loop started, because maybe you always create a loop where some version of yourself is trapped forever if you do any sort of time travel interference at all. But maybe the original Henry remembered finding it behind his dresser, and so he said it in the first call, and after that he started the loop because he affected the past.
Maybe that's a lot for us to try and
Yes.
map out, though.
No, I like the. I should say I've come to terms with that style of time travel theory where it's like this. Yes, the future affected the past because that's just how it is, how it's always been.
Yeah. I like that too. We'll go with that.
So this episode just took care of so many things. We have so
well,
few
it broke the
questions left.
curse with such a great score playing in the background.
Right.
I liked that.
It was such a weird side plot, the Facilier thing. But
Are we there yet?
Well, not that part.
Oh, okay.
I just need to say that I was very proud of Jacinda for not following Sabine into the kidnappy closet. They saw, well, when they went and opened it, they saw Drew, and Sabine went in, but Jacinda took a step back. Because otherwise, they just walk in and Facilier closes the door.
Yeah. Good call. I did not even notice that.
And then they didn't both react quite the way I think you would, but I thought Sabine's face when he used voodoo was like was perfect.
Okay, we'll get in.
She's like, okay, that really hurt. Also, you just used magic.
Yeah, that whole storyline was kind of pointless now.
It was just so short-lived, but it was super funny to see them burst out with office supplies as weapons.
Yes. Like, what did she have? Like a piece of metal? Like what did a ruler?
Yeah, something like that.
And a light bulb. I loved, this is like, again, my token girl moment, but I loved, like, Ella was wearing this like super nice light blue long coat, which is very Cinderella-y. The powder blue dress.
True. I noticed the color, but I didn't notice.
Well, just like when she was running to find her family.
Yeah.
I love how Sabine's like, where are you going? Where do you think I'm going now that you remember everything that just happened? Like,
oh, and another reason to love Tiana. She's been awake for all of 2 minutes, and she called her Ella. She didn't call her Jacinda. She didn't call her Jay.
And she called him Naveen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And apologized for something that happened like how long ago?
Right. Which I guess our season 1 characters did that too. They just very quickly reverted to Mary Margaret instead of Snow. I'll never get over it.
I remember in interviews, Josh Dallas and Jennifer Goodwin talking about when the curse was broken and they were filming on the streets of Steveston and they were trying to come up with words that they could yell that looked like Snow and Charming so that they wouldn't spoil it for so like because there's always such a live audience, they didn't want to spoil that the curse was broken.
That's so funny.
And so they were talking about yelling like whatever, but they couldn't come up with anything so that they could then voice over it, but it didn't work.
That's awesome.
Snow, Charming. Now we find my daughter.
Ugh. Mary Margaret is 5 syllables and like a nun's name and not iconic at all. And they just kept going with it.
Does anyone else still have to clap to figure out how many syllables things are? Just me. Mary Margaret.
Probably a mental clap.
I felt bad for the people, like the paramedics that were tending to Hook that probably just wanted to go find their family now that they weren't cursed anymore.
I had a very unpleasant flashback to the end of, was it season 5? Because I mean, I guess
I don't know. I need a little more than that.
Well, it was the other time they came back after a big magic battle, and there were very out of place paramedics and an ambulance and Hook on a stretcher. But at the time, it was the real Hook, the not Wish Realm Hook, and he was actually dead, as I recall.
Oh.
And they were taking him away. But I remember it was just so funny to be at the end of yet another season, the end of another battle, and there's Colin O'Donoghue on a yellow stretcher with real paramedics and an ambulance. And I'm like, what are you even? At least it's Seattle and not Storybrooke, so they made some sense. There's like, oh, there are no other people in the whole town, but there's an ambulance and paramedics. That's really how we deal with things here.
Well, that's true. Except if they were cursed, then they would want to find their family.
Oh, I'm being corrected in the chat. It was the mid-season 5 finale, which is true because it was the end of the Dark Ones thing, the end of Camelot, and the beginning of
the underworld.
Yeah.
Because then Emma was on the boat and she was all, "I will find you, Hook. I will always find you." And I hated that moment so much. So much. So much.
Apparently. That's awesome.
Oh, I felt so bad for Rumple. The curse is broken. Everyone loves everybody. Everyone's hugging. And he's just like sauntering away because he has nobody. And he's so, so sad.
Yeah. He just wants to die, really.
Yeah.
Now, did you think that he was looking for the scrapbook or the dagger?
I thought that he was looking for the dagger.
I did too.
Yeah.
And then I thought he just found the scrapbook by accident, but maybe that's what he was looking for.
See, I think I would have thought the scrapbook if I had seen the previously on Once Upon a Time scenes
Right.
that they gave us, but I didn't see those. So I like fast forward through that part. I know what happened previously on Once Upon a Time. Thank you very much, CTV.
When Henry saw the adoption papers in his bag and said, "Really? Was that on your Emma 2.0 list?"
No.
Because if I were using that term, it would be on mine. He sounded just like her.
There's been a few moments where people have sounded like her. Sometimes it's in a phrase that we're not able to say on the podcast, but is said quite a bit in the show.
Right. 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 Another one during the call with himself, he called himself kid.
Oh yeah.
That was great.
Like old Henry called young Henry kid.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That was a cute call. It was like, would you ever talk to somebody that long who called that you didn't know?
So here's the problem with my brain. I enjoyed, and maybe it wasn't just my brain since you said that, but I enjoyed that part, but I could not stop trying to imagine young Henry's perspective and what I would do if some creepy person called and didn't seem to know it was my graduation, but then was like, "Actually, I just called to congratulate you," and got really deep really fast. I'd be like, what is what's going on here?
Yeah, but he was also like reciprocating and sharing all of this deep stuff.
Yeah. Very
but
odd,
he's
but
not,
maybe you just trust yourself intrinsically.
Maybe. He also he's in Storybrooke and it's been really quiet there for as long as anyone for a while.
That's how the whole series is going to end. They're all still cursed. The original curse. This is just keeping them busy.
That's terrible.
Evil Queen wins.
I requested the show go out with dignity.
That would be high on my list of undignified ways to end.
Well, I also rewrote that dignity thing about how this episode ended. So
oh, true. There's still time.
There is still time. Do you know who allows this podcast to go on with dignity?
Our heroes. Not Rumpelstiltskin, right?
Nope.
Definitely not him.
Not at all.
Oh my goodness. It's true. Podcasts are actually kind of expensive in the long run. So it has been very helpful to have had our wonderful heroes for all these years. Some of them, in some cases, actual years. For this episode, we like to thank Lisa Slack, Lisa R., James Kinslow III, Marianne Lavati, Heather Peckfelder, Greg Shope, and our 18 heroes on Patreon. We're going to continue having some things that will need ongoing support for as we wrap up the season and have by the way, actually, this is probably even a good time to mention, we're probably going to have a little bit of a different schedule. So we might have some different things coming around the finale, maybe some extra episodes. You could almost say bonus features. So as we're doing all of that, we certainly appreciate ongoing support. If you want to find out how you can help us out and keep the podcast running, you can go over to oncepodcast.com/hero. Or is it heroes?
I think it's just hero.
Yes, I did it right. Okay. Now I'm whispering about other things. Hashtag thank you, John.
Yes, because when you do heroes, it brings you up to the episode called Heroes and Villains. And that's not the right one.
No, that's not the right one.
Thank you, John. John's in chat now. He's listening. John, we started really, really late, so we haven't been recording that long.
Yeah, don't worry.
Okay. I mean, we've been holding off on this conversation for a really long time.
The one about how the tiny package was actually tiny because it was from Tiny?
Yes, that one.
Yeah. I thought
that
was great.
Cute, though. Although, did they? Okay, they showed Henry, like Jared Gilmore, leaving on August Spike.
Yes.
With a bean.
Yes.
Did he say he had an extra bean, though?
Nope. They said it's your only bean.
Oh, okay, good. That makes sense.
And then they proceeded to just keep realm jumping like nobody's business.
But he would have found other ways. That was his adventures.
Oh, God.
And scheduled portal openings that he apparently just intrinsically knew about.
Yeah. I don't know if they're going to explain any of those things they said early in the season.
Your questions are pointless.
I'm not going to be disappointed at all if they don't explain that. I'm just going to I'm going to live with it. It's going to be fine.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Of all the things that I would like them to explain, that's not even at the top of the list.
Well, at this point, I don't know why it took me 7 years to get here, but what am I really asking for? A stupid explanation? They can come up with one, like, don't worry, but maybe I don't want to hear it. Maybe I want to make my own and not have it contradicted. Maybe my headcanon is going to be better than what they would actually cram into an episode somewhere to explain it.
Maybe all of the leaders of all of the realms at their board meeting got together and they were like, guys, it's getting ridiculous. Like, we want to have better access to the realms. And so, like, every single night at midnight, in the northmost part of the realm, a portal is going to open.
Maybe. Or maybe Tiny had an overstock of magic beans, and so he just thought, well, I might as well burn one for Henry every day.
And somehow that opened a portal exactly where Henry needed it.
Yeah.
Wherever he was.
Well, it was always in that spot. It wasn't wherever Henry was. He had to be in that spot.
Well, we know that there's already, so maybe he traveled to the Enchanted Forest, like the old Enchanted Forest. And then that's where he met Jack. And Jack, they fought those giants, which is where we last got a petrified bean. Right?
Petrified bean.
Isn't that what it was called? That bean's petrified. It's useless. That's what Cora said.
Oh.
Did I make that up?
It could be a magic bean. I don't know.
No, but something was wrong with it. Okay.
Oh.
At the end of Queen of Hearts,
have magic put into it or something.
At the end of Queen of Hearts, Cora's all mad, right? Because Snow and Emma got through the Lake Nostos.
Well, to be fair, she was kind of mad all the time.
Right, but she was especially mad. And then Hook presents her with the bean that they had gotten from the giant. And she said, that bean's petrified. It's useless. And he said, but these waters hold restorative properties. And then they
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Did she say petrified?
Don't remember. Sounds vaguely familiar. You mentioned the Enchanted Forest and the other Enchanted Forest. We kind of missed a list that was behind Tilly last week. One of the things that Henry had made, he had a specific list on a whiteboard of realms, and it says Enchanted Forest, Alt Enchanted Forest, Wish Realm, Agrabah, Neverland, Land of Untold Stories, Victorian England, and fictitious something that I assume is fictitious England.
Fictitious London, I think, is what we always said, right?
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right.
Is Wonderland on there?
See much. It is not.
Eye roll.
Right.
Maybe that's just assumed.
Right. So, as much as I hate to admit it, their idea of the truth is that another realm is another place literally called the Enchanted Forest.
Well, that's what we've been calling it, the New Enchanted Forest.
Yes.
Not the Alt Enchanted Forest.
I think I resisted that and just kept calling it another realm because I hoped it at least had a different name. I don't know what it would be, but
they basically just had some fan make that list for them.
Yes.
Or they've been listening to the podcast. Did they like perhaps get that from our timeline or something? No, do we have that list somewhere?
I don't know. Little do we know that we've actually been helping make the show.
Well, they put in that Buffy scene just for me, so
yes. And podcasting is in the show now too.
Yep.
Or at least it was.
All because of us.
I don't know if Henry's going to keep podcasting at this point.
Well,
it's one of my top questions, man. Will Henry keep
now
podcasting?
I just want to tweet that to Adam Horowitz and see if he answers.
Yes. So, any other favorite moments before we go to the end? I loved the reunions, like Regina hugging Lucy for the first time with Lucy actually remembering her.
Yeah, I like all hugs. Hugs are good.
I like all hugs, Jesus. Yes, but there was extra meaning in that. I liked that. The reunions were overall pretty good.
Yeah.
There was Henry's essay.
Oh, so good.
Dear Mom, this is the personal essay I wanted to send, but couldn't. It's titled, Once Upon a Time, and it's the story of us.
Yeah, it was very good.
It was beautiful, and not even just for a show about fairy tales. Like, it was beautiful for just a show about life.
Yeah.
The life lessons with Aaron portion. No, we got really good feedback too from DeAndre that was saying, like, who of us wouldn't want to call ourselves 10 years ago and like tell us what we've learned or whatever. It's true.
It is true.
This segues well into the part that I don't want to talk about. I didn't really like Facilier. It's pointless now. It's fine. Our questions are pointless, but he was like super sweet with Lucy and helped her save Henry and whatever. Yeah. And then even with Regina seemed genuinely to care about her. And then he locks Jacinda, who's Lucy's mom and Regina's daughter-in-law, in a closet. And even with Rumple, like, he's so evil.
I had been thinking that maybe we were going to find out that he was locking them away because he needed them safe and out of the way while he broke the curse or fought Gothel or something. But then it turns out he's just watching from the window. He's just like, farewell, Gothel. And doesn't really care about anything but what he's doing. He was just layered in, I felt like, all the wrong ways. It was just weird.
And then why, like, we get now why Gothel had magic, But he had magic.
I know. He had so much. He said it was hard to come by, but he just kept using it.
Well, but then I'm wondering, like, the voodoo stuff, in theory, I don't know a lot about it. I'm gonna hang on. I feel like I'm gonna say something I'm gonna regret. So. Voodoo, like, voodoo is very much, of this world. Like, it's magic that doesn't come from fairy tales or anything like that. Like, it's very much,
right.
Real life, air quote. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's something very worldly. It's not something that's.
It's kind of like what I was saying before, where it was like they went from fanciful witches to suddenly like pentagrams and stuff, and it was just uncomfortable.
Right. It's too real. And I think that was a lot of feedback about the Princess and the Frog movie, is that it dealt with that kind of dark magic that most fairy tales don't deal with.
Yeah.
Even though, well, this is kind of a rant for another day, but, I think that a lot of Disney movies deal with dark magic, but the reason why there was so much flack about that movie in particular is because it's dark magic that people in this world actually believe exists.
Right.
And use. So use in their own belief system or world. So it was too real. It wasn't a fairy tale. It's something that's very much a part of this world. And I think that that's where that switch comes from, right? Like, even with the pentagram and the witches, that's not the fairy tale witch magic. That's earthly.
Well, it's
beliefs
in a different way. I guess this is a less intense example because it doesn't involve spiritual forces. But the difference between watching a medieval war in a movie and watching like World War II. For some reason, you can watch, I mean, depending on how it's done, I guess, but you could watch sword fighting and that's one thing, but then you watch like guns and bombs and things, and that's a whole different thing, because something that's more contemporary or closer to your time or closer to something you can imagine maybe affect you more.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good way to explain it.
So what's funny too, though, is that they didn't really, what little they used, they weren't consistent with even in this show. I mean, big surprise, but so I never understood the idea, or at least I guess depictions I have seen of voodoo. I've never understood it to be an actual physical thing that was happening, and yet they did the whole, oh, check the medical examiner's report on Nick. Oh, he was stabbed. They said from the inside. I think they just meant only on the inside. But if that's how it was working in the show, then how come Tiana could walk even once the curse was broken? Because technically he stabbed her in the knee.
Yes. With a pin.
Yes. A pin that, if it were to scale, is sort of like a small sword.
True.
So
yeah,
anyway,
we don't need
that's nitpicking on something that's gone and done, but I still thought it was funny.
Because I wrote, okay, bye.
I don't.
I'm not really going to miss him. I just.
To be honest, especially on rewatching, I have mixed feelings about the end. My initial reaction was that the episode was amazing, and then the last 10 seconds ruined a lot.
Yep.
However, well, first I said that I would rather deal with Facilier longer than deal with Wish Realm Rumpel, or as I now hereby officially decree, he shall be called Wumple.
What?
Wumple.
Wumple. Okay.
Wish Rumpel.
Wiswell Wumple.
He's Wumple. We're gonna say it that way no matter what. So he's Wumple. And I don't think turning New Rumple into Numple sounds real great. So he's Wumple. Now we're just going to have to see if we can get through 2 episodes talking about him without laughing all the time. Actually, hopefully we only have to go through 1 episode talking about him, because I hope whatever his story is, it's done next week.
Maybe. I think it might not be. I really didn't like the ending. And then I was doing screen caps for the episode and got to do like a still of him. And I'm like, oh, I've missed seeing him because he's such a good character.
Because my initial reaction reversed a little bit, because now that we talk more about Facilier and how pointless he seemed, I'm actually glad that we don't have to be troubled with him for the last 2 episodes. And we do, my initial impression, not initial, but my impression after rewatching was, oh, they brought original Dark One Rumple out to play for the last episodes.
Yes. And so we got really good feedback from Meredith about this. So she said this last season has been very disappointing in the villain department. None have had staying power. It's more like a sprint where they keep passing the bad guy baton from one to the other. Rumple has always been the #1 villain of the series. I didn't like what the writers were doing, giving that over to Gothel or Dr. Facilier. Rumpelstiltskin can carry the ball, and if anything is finally going to get the good Rumple. And if anything is finally going to get the good Rumple to Belle in death, it's defeating his worst self. I'm going to say that part one more time because now I understand it. Rumpelstiltskin can carry the ball, and if anything is finally going to get the good Rumple to Belle in death, it's going to be defeating his worst self. I agree. He can never defeat himself. It's always been a battle of himself versus himself, the good versus the bad in him.
Yeah, when I first saw him, I thought, oh, this is like Head Rumple again, which would have been better, except that no one else could see him. I don't know. I don't even know if I need to get into the whole Wish Realm thing again, but I think that I will just briefly. First of all, he just hand waves how he even got there. Did you really think a Wish Realm could hold me? But again, they've way too much legitimized the Wish Realm. And, you know, you could say, well, the wish happened, so this whole realm was created with history, blah, blah, blah. That almost works. You can almost accept that the people there are real, and certainly they better be, because we've got Nook, we've got Alice, who is a child partially of a Wish Realm person. But we also have the fact that our Regina murdered Snow and Charming, and our Emma replaced their Emma and then left. And their Henry has a horrible story and is probably still really angry and messed up. And that was one thing when, as Regina insisted, they were all fake except for Robin, who was different because he was different from the beginning. He wasn't the right age. It was like Robin's soul ended up there or some stupid thing. And then they backtracked on that. But nobody else was supposed to be real. And therefore, Regina didn't murder the Charmings. And by their own rules, technically, that means she darkened her heart. But of course, none of that is true. Like, but if you want us to forget that part, then stop bringing the Wish Realm back, especially with time being so short. Like, don't make us think about the Wish Realm anymore.
Well, and additionally, it negates the entire purpose of the entire show, which is that Rumpelstiltskin could not get to a land without magic.
Oh, yeah.
Without doing this entire 200-year process of making this dark curse bring him to Storybrooke so he could find Bay.
Right. And in all
that whole thing aside, everything
even,
you just said as well.
Right. And even Gothel, like in all of his magical knowledge and his dark magic stuff and all that stuff, Rumpelstiltskin, the Dark One, never knew about Gothel, never knew where she was from and how the land without magic was created, and that she actually had ways to get there? Did she need the curse to get there?
I don't know. That's why it's stupid. And at the same time, I find that insulting. I'm the worst version of me was brilliant. Like, of course, because he's the best. He's the best villain this show's seen. So, I mean, I kind of get it, but I wish that he had been like just Rumple from another time or something.
Right.
I don't know. Not Wish Realm.
Right. Yeah, or like, does alternate Enchanted Forest not have a Dark One or a Rumpelstiltskin? They couldn't have brought him from there?
Who knows?
I guess he'd be different because, yeah, he wouldn't have had the same story, so he would necessarily be very different. But yeah. And now we've got the questions. Basically, all the questions have been answered. The curse is broken. Henry's fine. Everybody knows each other. The situation with Nook and Alice doesn't look that bad.
Yeah, that can be resolved in a sentence or two.
Right. It could even happen off screen. And then, so the only questions we have left now that they quickly took care of Facilier will Rumple get to be reunited with Belle, which, let's all say it together, I would be very disappointed if Rumple and Belle weren't reunited. So is that really a question? I don't actually understand why he doubts so much that he will be. They have weird rules about this whole process, but even in their little system they've got going there, I don't know why he thinks that he won't be reunited. He hasn't really done anything that they've said would keep him from that.
Yeah, that whole thing was very loosely established storyline.
So we have questions about, what does Wumple want? Are there 2 daggers or just one? Is Alice going to use her guardian power on one or both of them? Or are they going to find another way? Blah, 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 blah.
I really liked, we got feedback from Gareth. I'm just going to read because it reminded me of things that I had forgotten about previous seasons. But he said, the first Dark One turned the pure magic from the Holy Grail dark by killing her enemy. It would be a great ending to turn that magic light again. The trouble is Rumple has already done so much, including passing the Guardian's test of not hurting Alice to help himself. What more would he need to do? If the dark is removed from magic, then either Rumple can safely release it into the world or take it with him to the better place. That does go with the very, very loosely established, I can't even say that again. I'm losing my ability to speak. That does go with the very loosely established rules of magic that it can't be destroyed or created. It can just be moved around.
Is that where that concept came from? That whole story arc?
I feel like it was around that time because they were talking about like getting rid of the Dark One magic and in the Emma creepy basement storyline.
Creepy basement.
When Excalibur was in her basement.
Oh, yeah. / cave.
Whatever. Was in the basement of her suddenly created house.
Yes. Which I would love my basement to be a cave if I had a basement.
Was that a legitimate yawn or a once upon a time yawn? You'll never know. I also loved this feedback from Melanie. The end of Facilier surprised me. I thought he was going to be the big bad after Gothel was turned into a tree. Even more surprising is that Facilier was killed by Wishrumpel. How did Wishrumpel make it to Hyperion Heights? Is the dagger Wishrumpel held his dagger or Rumpel's dagger? Is the series going to end with a Rumpel battle? Will Alice as the Guardian be involved? Are they going to visit Storybrooke? Do they have to wait 20 years or something? I'm not doing the math before they can go back and are not interfering with the past. All valid questions, Melanie.
Yeah.
Pretty much sums up my brain right now.
See,
I do see.
I've always thought it was safe to assume that one, if not two, of the finale episodes would be a completely separate story. Like they've actually talked about it. They like doing it. I'm surprised they didn't get a 2-hour episode this year. But they might do it on 2 different nights. They like to just separate the story completely and go a completely different direction, maybe create an alternate reality of some kind so that they can do whatever they want and illustrate this, that, and the other. So I don't know how this would play into that. I just wouldn't be surprised if the Rumpel thing gets resolved in the upcoming episode and then they just do a complete departure for the finale, which I would like.
But so here's my concern. I have all these characters that I want to see come back. Granny was one of them, so they did that for me. If any of these characters come back, is it going to be proper or Wish Realm versions of themselves? But then I'm like, I guess there aren't really Wish Realm versions of many of them because they're all dead.
They're old or they're dead or they're something. So is that really a happy ending? No, I'm just so sad. The second they did the Wish Realm, it needed to end swiftly, and instead it's just stayed around and continued coming back. And I just hope it doesn't spoil the finale for me.
Well, I'm not a therapist, but I would start to prepare yourself to be disappointed.
Squid Ink has got nothing on a Wish Realm.
Maybe they'll bring back the burning red room.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe they'll use squid ink and blood magic to get into the burning red room.
At least that doesn't make Regina the forever evil queen.
True. And yeah, we're hearing this in chat, and I think we've even said this. They could very easily reorganize the other shows on Friday nights to give Once Upon a Time a 2-hour finale, and then next week give Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a 2-hour finale. And then it wouldn't be ruining my long weekend to watch the series finale of the show.
It would be ruining the American long weekend.
No, it would be ruining Mother's Day weekend. It would be this week.
Oh, well.
They've always ruined Mother's Day weekend.
But as a fan of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I'm saying then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. would get stuck with Memorial Day weekend.
No, it would be next weekend. It would be my long weekend. If they moved the 2-hour finale to this coming week.
I see what you're saying.
Then that's Mother's Day weekend.
Yeah.
And then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. could be on my long weekend. I don't care because I don't watch it. Also, I don't do a podcast about it.
True. It's all about the podcast.
It is all about the podcast.
It's all about our podcast.
That might still be why the wow, that wasn't even English. That might be the only reason why I'm still even watching Once Upon a
Time. Ooh. Yeah, true though. No, I probably would have kept watching. I would have watched it with a lot less thought.
Oh, I can just press this. Sorry, I'm trying to find a closing line, and I make all of my quotes complete, and so then I had to press to unhide completed.
How about this?
Vintage.
I'm sorry your life twisted into something you never meant it to. I promise I will do better. For everyone.
Only instead of life, it's TV show.
I'm sorry the show twisted into something you never meant it to. How about magic is real?
Is that what they accidentally did? Did they twist Gothel into something they never meant her to be?
The choice is simple: madness or take a leap of faith. And thanks for listening.
That's funny.
Oh, I know what I should quote: Lucy's temper tantrum. Where is it?
I don't tagged any closing lines, so
I know no one did, including me. By no one, I mean you didn't and I didn't.
Right.
I wish you could remember what it's like to be a kid, to believe. I wish you never grew up.
Once upon a time. Or did they grow up, though? In case y'all are wondering, we're basically trying to figure out how to we're doing work in the middle of the podcast. We're trying to figure out what our closing line is.
Only so that we could close it.
I know. True. Before we get there.
Hey, I can do that. I'm sorry this show twisted into something you never meant it would be.
That's so funny, though. Oh my gosh. Regina's baseball bat. I know. I was thinking maybe something from baseball batting.
Oh, I don't know if we're going to include this or not. The only thing I found out when I Googled 4632, which is the numbers that they keep showing us so clearly when Rumple opens his safe, is that is a type of baseball play. 4632.
What is the play?
I don't know. It has something to do with the numbers of the players and like it's like a triple play or something. I don't know baseball.
Oh, I thought it might. Well, I don't either. I thought it might shed light as to what's going to happen with him.
He's going to get out. I think that's the play. You get somebody out.
Oh, okay.
What about something like Vintage Curse Era Classic?
Ooh. How about scratches are a part of life?
Sure.
I thought you'd love that one.
They are.
That's a little life lesson there. It's a very basic one, though.
That's the problem with humans. I don't know when to let go.
Oh, dang. You went dark.
Failed author and 5-star Swift driver. Well, I'm just a sad grown man who couldn't even save his family.
Don't be a fool. Join your mother and defend your home.
It's funny because this was such a good episode, and we can't think of it. I'm okay with. I wish you could remember what it was like to be a kid. To believe. I wish you never grew up. No,
and then we have to slam a door.
Yeah, I have a shelf here. I can.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
If you want. That's hilarious.
I think this might be the only time too that a Lucy quote is going to work. So
that's true. It's the only time you liked her. So.
Okay. Yeah, I suppose you have a point.
So, are we done talking now about this episode?
I think we are.
Do you have something else to say?
I want to try to end on a good note, and also we have the other thing to play.
Oh yeah.
What a roller coaster. Maybe we should have done it earlier. We could do it after the closing even. Except then well, we should do that when we should do announcements. Because we need to talk about the schedule a little more specifically than I did when I was talking about heroes.
Okay, what if I do this concludes and then we go into announcements?
That's fine. And the first will be the clip and then.
Okay. This concludes.
well, let's actually before we say that, let's see. I want to see if there's anything else. Oh yeah, I have a thing. There's that sigh again. Okay.
I wasn't gonna point it out, but
so other hopes. Do you hope they all go back to their original time and place?
yes, but only if we get to see Snow and Charming and Emma.
Right. Because it's not like Regina has been kept from aging, but it's not been so long that they have to make her look older. So they could bring everybody else back without having to make them look older.
Well, they don't have to look that old anyway. Just dust some gray. They did it with Belle.
True. Since we don't really know what the timelines are supposed to be exactly, it's hard to say how they would have to do it.
True.
But I thought they had a good thing going, kind of living in Tiana's kingdom, and I think it'd be nice to see them go back there. And be in a time where they can still visit Storybrooke and vice versa and all of that.
Yeah, I think that would be best. I don't even know at this point. But yes, I would like that.
One line from Regina saying, "This is my home now," does not have to stick in the next episode. We've seen that very clearly.
Very true. Yeah, just depends what writers take over.
Yeah.
Can we just say, I'm just going to say this. I'm just going to try something.
Okay.
Before we conclude this episode of the podcast, we do want to give you guys some announcements about some changes that might be happening with the podcast schedule. And also we would like to hear from Daniel.
Yes, Daniel has left us a little message just to update on his life and where he's been. So we'll play that now.
Hi there. I'm sorry for my sudden and unexplained absence from the podcast. Several months ago, my life was tragically turned upside down, and once upon a time's themes of hope, family, and true love are things I really can't podcast about right now. But I think Jeremy and Aaron have been doing a really good job on their own. I do hope to be back for part of the finale to at least say a final thank you and goodbye in the podcast. For now, though, I ask for your prayers for restoration and healing as I continue to focus on my family. Thank you for your encouragement and support. They mean a lot to me. Thank you.
So yes, Daniel is still behind the scenes, keeping things running, and we do appreciate your continued prayers for him in all of this.
Definitely.
As far as the schedule goes, it always gets a little bit difficult in May as holidays happen and things get busier and did I say holidays twice?
Yeah.
Back up. as far as the schedule goes, we're thinking of doing things a little bit differently around the finale. We don't have any concrete plans, but we'll probably be podcasting on some slightly different days than we normally do. We'll be finalizing that schedule sometime before our next episode, and you can watch Twitter for those sorts of announcements as well, and oncepodcast.com/live.
Also watch Twitter because we might be looking for some specific feedback from you guys about that we would like some specific feedback from you guys that we would like to include in any of the extra episodes that we do. And we will post about that on Twitter as well as share it in our upcoming episode before the finale. Are we good to go into closing?
Yes,
okay.
I think so. There wasn't anything else, was there?
I don't think so.
I think everything else in my head was for next week with extra time for feedback and things like that.
Right. And sorry.
So you're going to talk. You talk now about when sending feedback, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And this does conclude our discussion of episode 300. Nope. And this does conclude our discussion of this episode of Once Upon a Time. Is This Henry Mills? If you would like to comment on anything that we've said, you can do that by going to our show notes at oncepodcast.com/343. And you can also use that link to share this episode on your social media. Every share of the episode helps people find us and helps them get in on the discussion and participating. Please send us your feedback for the next episode of the podcast, which will be about the episode of Once Upon a Time that airs on Friday night. You can send feedback by going to oncepodcast.com/feedback. You can also follow us on Twitter at Once Podcast and follow each of us individually on Twitter. I'm Erin, and I'm on Twitter at Erin J. Cruz.
I'm Jeremy. I'm on Twitter at Phlegon. That's PHLEGON.
And you can also follow Daniel on Twitter at the Daniel J. Lewis. Special thanks to our whole team of volunteers who helped to make this podcast possible. Jack for writing our show notes, John Buchanan for editing our episodes, Hunter Hathaway and Jacqueline for providing spoilers, Jacqueline and Matthew Paul for moderating the forums, Keb for masterminding our timeline, Daniel, Jeremy, Heather, Hunter, and Jacqueline for hosting the podcast. And until next time, I wish you could remember what it was like to be a kid, to believe. I wish you never grew up. And thanks for listening.
You need a better door.
Pardon?
You need a better door.
Did that not work?
No.
Okay. We can just do a different line.
You can still do that line even without the door slam.
I just slammed my hand.
Slam my hand.
And until next time, I wish you could remember what it was like to be a kid, to believe. I wish you never grew up. And thanks for listening. Was that better?
Maybe. I mean, I'm not a sound engineer, but.
Once Podcast is a proud member of Noodle.mx Network. Find more of our award-winning and award-nominated
The way you did that just now made me think of someone who's running downhill and they just get ahead of their feet and fall down.
Because I was trying to get it all out before I left. Once Podcast is a proud member of Noodle.mx Network. I can picture you laughing. I'm not even watching your face. Once Podcast is a proud member of Noodle.mx Network. Find Maybe John could just use like one of the 19 other times I've said this properly.
Find more podcasts to help you think, laugh, and succeed.
At Noodle.mx. Once Podcast is a proud member of Noodle.mx Network. Find more of our award-winning and award-nominated podcasts to make you think, laugh, and succeed at Noodle.mx. Once Podcast is a proud member of Noodle.mx Network. Find more of our award-winning and award-nominated podcasts to make you think, laugh, and succeed at Noodle.mx. Big thanks to our heroes for... Why did you start laughing again? I did it.
That her parrot is laughing with you right now.
What?
Rose's parrot is laughing with you.
I hope that their laugh is as adorable as mine. Big thanks to our heroes for supporting this episode. If you would like to be a hero too, please visit oncepodcast.com/hero. And thank you for your support. Let's hurry up, everybody.
You texted me, meet me at the cemetery. This is fantastic.
You're going to like screen cap it now.
Well, so
I've never understood that either, Snooki, but I just go with the flow because I'm not the boss.
You're not the boss. Wait, what?
The part that we say exactly the same every single week. We record it live every single time.
That is funny and true.
Oh, yeah, that should have been the closer. And remember, meet me at the cemetery.
Oh, you can still do that if you want.
Okay, John, we're going to replace my terrible closing. No, I'm just trying to look for the script. Should I just say until next time, meet me at the cemetery? And thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Okay. And until next time, meet me at the cemetery. And thanks for listening. Not nearly as exciting and dramatic, but
you could say it more dour.
Oh.
Surprise.
And until next time, meet me at the cemetery. Thanks for listening.
Can you sound like a text message? Because technically it wasn't spoken.
Wait. Siri, can you please say meet me at the cemetery? Siri, can you please say meet me at the cemetery?
Who, me?
Oh, wait, did it in a male voice? I was going to tell you to just tell it to speak the message, but it does it in a male voice.
Oh.
Cemetery.
Siri, please read the last text message that I sent to Jeremy Laughlin.
I found your most recent message from Christine Hamilton.
That's not what I asked. Oh, not what I asked you for. I feel like the closing show, or what is this called? The after show is going to be short tonight.
Oh, I think so too.
Did we have something we needed to talk about? I'm going to stop my recording right now at 2 hours and 27 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Same. It's a good thing our recordings are the same length.
Yeah. Election. That was the only thing you mentioned before.
The debate.
What?
Yeah,
I
and
was
then you
watching.
kind of stole my thunder already. You were like, yeah, they say.
No, they
please
don't.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was joking though. They all talk over each other. But we have more than 2 candidates, and they're literally like standing. They don't have a podium or any, like they're standing on a stage, but they don't have like a, is that what it's called, a podium? No,
I don't. You stand behind a podium.
Yeah, they don't have one of those.
Oh.
And so there's
like the town hall thing that we saw in the States this last time.
Probably, I don't watch your debates because I can't vote in your election, and that's just depressing. So this format was, they had a question from like the public, and then they each had 45 seconds to answer, and then they would have 3 minutes of like debate time amongst each other where they all just kind of like talk over each other about that topic. And then there was like a leader's question where like one leader could ask the other leader a question, and they would all have 45 seconds to address it, and then 3 minutes of debate. It was interesting. I've never really watched one before. I already know who I'm voting for and like who I support and who I don't want to get in.
Yeah.
But it came up actually on my Twitter when I was looking for stuff, because it's streaming live and trending. Obviously, it's a really, really important election for us. So, like, really, really important. Like, it's really, really, really important that we get the person that we have in out, and that we don't get the other guy in. Because we have more than 2. So.
Yeah. Well, technically, so does America, but you never would know it.
Yeah, but ours is we have a little bit of a different system.
Yeah.
But basically, like, kind of the hashtag is like, don't go from bad to worse. Vote for better. Like, we can do better is the one slogan, or as you will, or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway. It's
Well,
on June 7th.
Process is
so
relatively the same.
This is just for provincial election, but unfortunately, provincial government controls like hydro and schools and medical and they control a lot of things. So
it's not like our state level elections at all.
I don't know. Do your states control those things?
Yeah, some of them. Some of them.
Yeah. Our, like, I don't know. We have the biggest deficit in like one of the candidates joked to the one who's in power right now that she could take up the first 5 pages of the Guinness Book of World Records with biggest deficit, biggest unemployment, biggest, like, all of the biggest, like, bad things that you can have.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of them were true, but it was a really funny moment. I feel like we have like a 380 billion trillion, a lot of dillion dollars deficit. I should know, but I don't.
Yeah. It's funny. I always think that I know more things than I do until I start to talk about them. And then there's suddenly just a space where that knowledge should be. And I realize, wow, you need to educate yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that knowing the exact number is.
Oh, well, no, not that.
But then clearly... then all of the candidates are like, oh, well, we're going to put $9 billion into expanding the transit system. And then the question was actually from this girl who was like, the new transit system is great. It just never runs properly. So they're like, we're going to expand this system that already doesn't work. And so then the one candidate was like, I'm just going to put more money into putting more like buses on the road so that the system actually works. Like, logic is not always present so much.
Yeah.
We the North, Jiminy. I'm sure that your team is destroying ours, but I have a hat. Do you have a hat with your team slogan on it? I don't even know what he's talking about. I'm assuming he's talking about the Raptors. Anyway, if you're from Ontario, you should vote on June 7th. Whoever you want to vote for, just vote.
I'm not from Ontario.
No, but you could probably make a really good decision.
I shall come decide.
Okay, I think I have to go now.
Yeah, I think
it's late.
We've yes. Suddenly, thankfully, right at the end, I didn't notice. Suddenly I'm like, wow, it's hard to swallow, and I don't even know why. So I should probably go take care. However, one does such a thing. Did I finally reach my limit? Did I finally talk too much?
Maybe. I'm literally about to get kicked out of this room though, so I'm
literally that's serious.
Good night.
Can you record that sound and then we can put it with your closing line?
Of getting kicked out of the room?
Yeah, because there'll probably be a door slam, and I just want to hear that.
Maybe. All right. We will talk about the schedule and
okay.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Good night.
Night, everyone.